We were expecting Kyrie Irving to be traded, Robin, but no one was expecting this. Conference rivals pulling off a blockbuster deal, and it was a stunner. Kyrie for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Ante Zizic, and the Brooklyn Nets' unprotected first-round pick for 2018. Let's unpack this from every possible angle. Our friends from the crossover, Matt Dollinger, Rohan Nadkarni, are both here. Let's first take a look at the projected lineups for both of these teams after this blockbuster trade. And as we're looking at it and the audience is looking at it, answer this question for me, Rohan. Who got the better deal?
Oh, I don't think it's close. The Cavaliers got the better deal. They're getting a package of players in return for Kyrie Irving. I think the big thing here is, Thomas and Irving is a one-for-one swap. It's not a huge downgrade for the Cavaliers. I mean, they're both, not very good defenders. They're both great offensive players. Obviously, Kyrie is a better offensive player. He's younger than Thomas. Really, what the Cavs get here are the two biggest things. That Brooklyn unprotected first-round pick gives them so many options moving forward. And beyond that, I mean, all of us were watching the finals, and we all thought, wow, the Cavs could really use, one more guy to guard Kevin Durant, one more guy to shoot threes, someone who's not a veteran with a podcast, a young player who can actually play a little bit. And they got that in Jay Crowder, who's on an incredibly affordable contract for the next 3 years. So I think it's no doubt Cleveland knocked this trade out of the park.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe Altman looks pretty good, the Cavs' new GM.
Rookie GM.
First trade, fleece, Trader Danny in Boston. So I'm amazed. Honestly, I didn't see this coming. I saw a Kyrie for Isaiah trade coming, but I didn't see the Cavaliers getting so much in return. And if I'm a Celtics fan, I've got a tough time talking myself into this deal.
See, I don't think it's a cop-out to say this is one of those trades that was good for both teams. Kyrie Irving's still very young. He's locked up on a deal. And if you're looking at the Celtics' ceiling potential, I think it now gets higher with Irving and, of course, Hayward in tow. The problem is they do lose Bradley and Crowder in the same offseason. As far as the Cavaliers go, this is about as good as you were going to do because Isaiah Thomas is basically a short man's Kyrie Irving, right? Does Kyrie's best skill about as well as you can do it. And then on top of that, you get a guy in Jay Crowder who gives them some flexibility with their lineups. He's another body to throw at Kevin Durant in the finals. He's a guy that can play next to LeBron in super small lineups instead of Richard Jefferson and podcast cohorts. And he also is a backup for LeBron, so LeBron can rest a little bit more.
Who wins the East, though? And we're talking about how, and Robbie, you just mentioned it, that the ceiling for Boston is very high. But in terms of this upcoming season, who wins the East?
I honestly think the Cavaliers will win in a landslide now. I really think the Celtics took a step back with this trade. It wasn't a win-now trade to me. I think they're thinking we want to win 2 or 3 years from now. I really think they took a step back. They exposed themselves on the wing with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown now, 2 19-year-olds. You're relying on those guys to guard LeBron. It's the hardest position in the NBA is the wing right now. The Celtics aren't as good as they were last year there. Gordon Hayward's a great addition too, but what could they have had instead? If they were willing to give up Isaiah, Jay Crowder, the 2008 pick, couldn't they have had Jimmy Butler and kept Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas? So to me, Danny Ainge is quietly not trying to win next season with this deal. I feel like they're punting on next year. They think the Warriors are probably going to win the title. The Cavs are the best shot. Let's try and win 2 to 3 years from now in case LeBron changes teams or the Warriors get dismantled.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of who wins the East, I think during the regular season, that completely hinges on if LeBron cares or not.
Right.
If LeBron's, going for MVP, then I think the Cavs will win.
But he definitely cares now.
Yeah, I think he definitely cares now. In terms of who's making the finals, I think this trade maybe makes the Cavs better in the short term. Again, Robin touched on it. Isaiah is like as close as you can kind of get to Kyrie without having Kyrie in terms of an offensive skill set. You can't stress enough having Jay Crowder in those small ball lineups as opposed to Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson was guarding Kevin Durant.
It was a joke.
In the NBA Finals. It was an absolute joke. I mean, you're watching these games and it's like, how the hell is this possible? How is Richard Jefferson guarding Kevin Durant? Jay Crowder, I mean, you look at small lineups with Crowder, Kevin Love, LeBron James in the front court. I think the Cavs really made out as well as they could have in this deal, and they're by far the finals favorites for me.
If this is a futures bet, I'm putting the Celtics at the top of the Eastern Conference. But if we're talking the near future, next year it's the Cavs. It was already a layup line for them, and the main guy guarding LeBron James just got traded to LeBron's team. And do you think LeBron is going to lose to a team led by Kyrie Irving next year?
No way.
No
Nope.
chance.
Oh
Okay,
my
so how
God.
does this affect the chances for Cleveland if we believe that they are the outright favorites again in the Eastern Conference? How does it affect their chances against the Golden State Warriors?
Look, the Warriors are still a whole different animal, and nobody as constructed can touch them. It does help in the sense where Crowder can go on Durant, and it starts to build a path for the Cavs to possibly get there with another move. Like earlier on the trading on the internet, I moved Kevin Love for Eric Bledsoe and Jared Dudley. I was just playing around with what else they can do because they need to address backcourt perimeter defense because you ain't going to get it done with Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose as your guards.
But think about what the Cavaliers now have. Like you said, they can throw so many different guys at the Warriors now, which is what Golden State was able to do to them last year. They've got Jay Crowder. LeBron can now roam. He doesn't have to, wear himself out playing KD like he did in last year's finals. He looked very tired. Jay Crowder can help you there. You've got J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert coming off the bench, two good defenders there. I mean, Isaiah Thomas, we all know he's not the best defender. He's sometimes a liability in the fourth quarter. The Cavs are deep now. They've got options. I really think that this was such an upgrade for them, even though they took a slight step back at point guard.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of the enduring image of the finals, I think it's Kevin Durant pulling up on LeBron James for that winning three-pointer in Game 3. You remember LeBron was sagging back. You could see just the exhaustion in his face. He couldn't guard him full court.
Right.
He had to sag back. And, just those little moments, those little inflection points, I think Jay Crowder helps so much. Do I think the Cavs now are going to be favored or have a great chance to beat the Warriors? No, but it brings them that much closer. And I kind of agree with Robin. What's interesting about the Cavs is I think what they need more than anything to beat the Warriors is depth, not stars. You see all these other teams loading up on stars. Cleveland has, the ultimate star, the stars, LeBron James. What they need is kind of like that perfectly constructed team around him, and Crowder brings them a step closer.
And I think people forget how much better the Cavs were than everyone else but the Warriors. Yeah. So really, that's the only team they're chasing. And as far as roster construction in the immediate future, obviously the Brooklyn pick was sort of insurance for LeBron. Yeah. It's a good thing to have, period. But if you're talking the here and now, you really do have to sort of construct your roster in the eyes of how do we specifically deal with that monstrosity of a team, because they had no problems. I mean, they got Boston right out the paint. They were done. Right. So it's no other team that presented a threat to the Cavs at all.
Think about this for a second, which is where my mind was going last night while I was trying to process this trade. Think about who the Cavaliers have right now. They've got LeBron James, who's pissed off because his best teammate just requested a trade. He's never been so disrespected in his life. He's got the Cavs have Isaiah Thomas, who was disrespected even more by the Celtics. They dumped him for a different point guard after they brought him back. They've got guys who just play with a chip on their shoulder. They've got angry guys, Tristan Thompson's trying to shut everybody up about his relationship. J.R. Smith is, always like that. Kevin Love is, reunited with his Seattle teammate. This guy he's played with when he was a child. This team's going to be so motivated. It's going to be amazing to watch them. And then you got Boston on the other side. Got a bunch of guys who really don't have that chip on their shoulder. What adversity has Gordon Hayward and Isaiah and Kyrie really faced? Kyrie complained that he made 3 straight finals. He demanded a trade.
We're going to get more into the ramifications of this trade. But if you look at the guys traded for each other, at least the prominent names here, one was the first pick in the draft. The other was the last pick in the draft. And Isaiah Thomas, who's already had an interesting career arc, well, that career just took another turn. Any NBA move, the emojis were flying yesterday. If LeBron tweeted out an emoji about how he was feeling, what do you guys think it would be? Let's start with Matt Dollinger.
I go with the dancing banana. It's the banana boat guy. Bananas are apparently his thing. LeBron was dancing last night after that trade. I bet we saw the weird treadmill videos. We saw what he's like. I bet he was losing his mind last night
Really?
after that trade.
You know, I think I have LeBron with the smirk face emoji. I think here's why. LeBron is still kind of controlling what happens in the NBA. He's still the best player in the NBA. I think he sees everything that's happening this summer. You know, teams going after the Warriors. You know, his best teammate kind of requesting a trade.
Right.
And I think he has the mindset right now of, you know, maybe I need to show everyone again what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm hoping for this regular season is kind of a LeBron James revenge tour. You know, last year I think he kind of rested on his laurels on that finals. He didn't have to prove anything. I'm not saying LeBron James has to prove anything to us, but I think he himself will feel like, you know, I got to show the rest of the league just, you know, exactly who I am.
That's why I'm going with the flame emoji. Allow me to
Ooh,
reintroduce
nice.
myself,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
because here's the thing. LeBron has the motivation of losing to the Warriors. LeBron has the motivation of sticking it to Kyrie. At the same time, Kyrie's no longer on his team.
Right.
So anyone who's saying, oh, he's got this superstar helping him along, that's not the case. I think LeBron James is going to win the MVP this year.
Yeah.
You have Durant and Curry cannibalizing each other's votes. You have Westbrook now having Paul George on his team. You have Harden now having Chris Paul on his team. Really, I think the only competitors are Kawhi Leonard and Giannis with Milwaukee. But I do think if LeBron gets the Cavs to the top of the East, not only do you have the easy fallback argument that I always make, which is he's always the MVP, but the storylines align. So I think you're going to see a revenge tour MVP season from King James.
The narrative's perfect. It was perfect for Russ last year. You know, I'm going to do my own thing. All year. I'm just going to wreck the NBA. LeBron now has the most motivation he's ever had in like year 13. That just shouldn't happen. Kyrie did him a tremendous favor by giving him a reason to play for next year and then getting a package in return that was honestly worth a lot more than he was. So I think LeBron's got to be you know, the MVP frontrunner.
I'm with Robin. I think it's kind of all set up. The MVP's basically always been there for the taking for LeBron if he really wanted it. You know, the year after the decision notwithstanding when people lost their minds a little bit.
Right.
But that's a different argument. Yeah, I think the MVP, like Robin said, it's always his. You know, it's incredible. The last 4 years, I don't think there's been any debate. LeBron James has been the best player in the world, in the universe, in all known living things. He's been the best basketball player. He hasn't won MVP, which is, you know, kind of insane. I think that's, you know, partly a testament to these incredible seasons other guys have had, but, you know, also a testament to the way LeBron treats the regular season. Well, now he has a reason to, you know, to treat it seriously again. And I think it really is setting up for him to be MVP. And I think he knows, if I can't, you know, keep beating the Warriors in the finals, at least let me get these MVPs.
That's about this upcoming season.
Yeah.
What about beyond? Do you think this trade has an impact on whether LeBron stays with Cleveland long term?
I think it does. I really think it gives Cleveland a host of options they did not have yesterday. I mean, that 2018 pick, it could go in so many different ways. They could go all in at the deadline. Things are going well in the first round. Maybe they get another player. Maybe they just go all in on this season. That'll convince LeBron to stay, I'm pretty sure. Maybe they don't. Maybe they keep in their back pocket. That way they've got options. I really think that, you know, for all the good that David Griffin did, Kobe Altman, just jumped into the situation, and he's kind of saved the Cavaliers.
And on the flip side, obviously, Danny Ainge, we've been waiting for the big move from Ainge. Was this the right move, though, Rohan?
So in a vacuum, it's not a bad trade, right? Like they're still upgrading at the point guard position. We've discussed, you know, the future is still bright for Boston. You know, something that, you know, we haven't really talked about. Kyrie Irving is a recruiter, maybe helping bring people to Boston. That's a bit of a wild card. In the context of everything else that's happened this summer, I don't think it's a good move for the Celtics. I mean, you look at the return for Chris Paul, Jimmy Butler, Paul George. You know, those are all better players than Kyrie Irving, who are all traded for much less. You know, Matt said this earlier. If Boston was willing to move the 2018 Nets pick this year, they could have had, you know, Jimmy Butler is a much better player than Kyrie Irving on a similarly incredible contract. I mean, they could have had him, paired him with Gordon Hayward. If you want to match up with the Warriors, you need depth on the wing. I mean, a scoring first point guard, frankly, isn't going to do it. So I think if you look at the move in the context of just the superstar landscape in the NBA right now, I mean, Boston really dropped the ball.
Let me ask you a question. If you're an NBA player, just entertain me for a second.
Yes.
Why the hell would you want to play with Kyrie Irving? This is a guy who just played with LeBron for several years, made several finals, won a title, and he's like, nah, I'd rather go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
He wants his own team. Well, guess what? You're on the Celtics. They're not your team.
Yeah.
Brad Stevens' team. That's who they are. Gordon Hayward, it's his team closer than Kyrie's. I don't know what Kyrie wanted. Did he want to be on the Suns and win 23 games and score 30 points? I don't get it.
I think he wants a scoring title because I think that
he's not going to get it in Boston.
He might not get it in Boston, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be in Boston
sure.
if he doesn't get to, shoot his 30 shots a game.
Right.
He was getting 25 in Cleveland. Apparently, that wasn't enough for him. I think that's interesting. Now that Kyrie is the man, at least he's on the front of the media guide. He's on the masthead, so to speak, even though obviously Brad Stevens has a lot of power as the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, are you worried about chemistry in Boston? I mean, should that be something we're concerned? We now get to see Kyrie on a contender, not the old Cavs, which, only won 20-something games, on a contender, and he's the man.
If Kyrie Irving isn't able to fit in Boston, he really is a destructive player, not only in play style, but in personality, because Brad Stevens has proven himself as a coach. And theoretically, they have a lot of versatile moving pieces here, and there's no one taking Kyrie's role as the main ball handler, the main scorer. Obviously, there's no one, casting a shadow over him. It must have been doubly tough for Kyrie earlier in the week with his whole flat earth theory debunked by being under a giant shadow. But, that whole thing is right there for Kyrie Irving. So this is going to be the trial of Kyrie Irving's career, and he has to make good here. So I do think he has a ton of talent, and I do think he is the kind of player Boston needs considering the makeup of the rest of their roster.
I'm a little dubious of his fit in Boston only because we've just seen this whole summer, like we said, he wants to be the man, and now he's going to a situation where it's just so fluid in Boston. I saw just kind of an incredible something someone tweeted out last night. Only 4 players are back from the Celtics that were on the team last season that made the Eastern Conference Finals. Whose team is it going to be? Is it going to be Kyrie's, but should it be his team over Gordon Hayward's? What about Al Horford? I mean, he's now been there for a whole season, which in Boston is a long time. Yeah. I just think it's going to be, kind of a weird fit. It's going to be an adjustment period for Hayward and Irving. Was Hayward expecting this trade when he signed with Boston? I'm sure in the long term he must not have a huge problem with it, but that's a big personality to mix in, which seemingly wasn't part of your offseason plan at all.
Of course, you guys know that we're streaming on Facebook Live, and here's something that Alex Verkley weighed in. He said, you sports experts still don't understand what Kyrie was saying when he wants his own team. It was about playing under LeBron, playing second fiddle. I don't blame him for going out and taking a leap to forge his own path. And I think that's something that you said right after he did demand the trade, that you're not going to slight someone for wanting to carve out their own legacy. The problem with that was he might have been sacrificing titles. I mean, he could have been leaving rings on the table for that.
I have no issue with Kyrie Irving wanting to play out his career the way he wants to play it. I mean, I don't want to live under Matt Donner's shadow.
You might have to. You better request a trade.
But, is Boston the situation where he's getting that? I mean, we kind of joke about him going to the Suns and winning 20 games. If he had gone to Phoenix, he would have been the unquestioned man. They would have built a team around him, and he would have gotten a chance to find out. Now he's going to Boston, a team that already was a contender. He's going to have to live up to, playing, literally filling the role of a fan favorite in Isaiah Thomas. I just don't think this is the right situation for Kyrie or the one he was looking for when he asked for the trade.
Spinning now forward, which we have been doing this entire conversation, but Danny Ainge hinted at it in his conference call last night that the Celtics may not be done. So let's go Celtics first, and then we'll hit the Cavaliers. One more move, or maybe 2, that the Celtics should make before the season starts.
I think you have to see what you have when you're Boston. They were patient for a long time before making this Kyrie move. I'd go back to that philosophy because you have to see, what you need to address. Can Marcus Smart carry the load defensively now that you lost Bradley? As far as the Cavaliers, it's clear what they need. The Cavaliers need defensive help on the perimeter. So I would already be seeing what I might be able to flip Kevin Love for, and I would at least consider moving that Brooklyn pick again if it is for a home run kind of trade that puts me on the same plane as the Warriors.
Matt, one more move for the Celtics and the Cavs?
If I'm the Celtics, I'm calling the grindfather, Tony Allen. I need someone with grit now. Losing Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas is a big step back chemistry as well. You have Marcus Smart there, who's clearly not afraid to fight anybody, but who's going to guard LeBron? Who's going to guard all those talented threes? Tony Allen, 6'5", he's more of a shooting guard, but they don't have anyone I trust on the perimeter right now, or on the wing rather. Jaylen Brown has the pedigree to become a great 3-and-D guy, but he's 19 years old. I'm not going to play him in the Eastern Conference Finals. For the Cavs, just don't sign Dwayne Wade. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's tempting, but
it seems like it's a done deal already.
Don't do it. There are guys on your team already that deserve those minutes more than Dwayne Wade. I know he's LeBron's boy, and I know it'd make for a nice little story. This is killing Rohan right now.
Miami native.
D-Wade, you're not invited to the party. Sorry.
First of all, Dwayne Wade's going back to Miami. We already know that.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, all right. I think for the Celtics, I'm holding out, like Robin said, for a home run. I think they still have some assets. When they traded back for Tatum, I believe they picked up another pick in next year's draft. They have Brown, they have Tatum as guys who can be moved. I'm looking, what kind of home run move can I make? Is Anthony Davis going to get on the market? Is he someone that they can kind of, again, cobble together a package for? You can make a case Brown, Tatum, some draft picks could be enough to get him. For the Cavs, I'm on the same page as Robin. You need more depth on the wing. I mean, you have LeBron and Crowder, but, Love played well in the finals last year, but he ultimately wasn't a difference maker. If you can trade Kevin Love for multiple pieces, I mean, stretch fours are a little easier to find these days.
LeBron is a stretch four
Exactly.
now, right?
Yeah, LeBron,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
point
LeBron's
four.
a stretch five even at this point. I mean, their best lineups are when he's at center. So I think if you can move Love for a couple of defensive-minded guys who can do the little things, again, you got to find the team that perfectly complements LeBron. And in addition, if LeBron leaves next summer, Kevin Love isn't going to be a part of the future in Cleveland. So I think for them, it's kind of, looking at what they can get for him. And I think Anthony Davis, by the way, is the biggest name on the market. Cleveland maybe has a chip now in that Brooklyn pick.
I don't know. For me, I feel like if I'm the Celtics, I probably want some depth in the front court.
Yeah.
Seems like they're giving up a lot. You were talking before about they were just giving the Cleveland the paint last year in that Eastern Conference final. And then if I'm the Cavs, this is something that LeBron has been asking for year after year. Backup point guard help who can play defensively, and that's something that Isaiah Thomas, for as brilliant of a scorer as he is, he's not going to be able to give you that. So I feel like the Cavs will still be on the market.
Former MVP Derrick Rose doesn't do it for you?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, just
You're talking
checking.
about D-Wade, Derrick Rose. Well, I don't know.
Is this the first everybody wins trade? Because I could make the argument that the Celtics win, the Cavs win, and then we all win. Because now we have the Celtics and the Cavaliers, that rivalry
That's
head-to-head,
great.
LeBron versus Kyrie, opening night. Let's do it.
Eastern Conference just got a whole lot more interesting. Although Isaiah Thomas may not be on the floor that opening night, we're going to have to see on his hip. He's going to undergo a physical coming up in the next few days. Guys, thanks so much for being here to talk through this trade. It really was a blockbuster, and it made the East a lot more exciting this year.
Definitely.
Thank you, guys. Meanwhile, yesterday it was announced that Jon Jones has been stripped. He may be stripped of his title after failing yet another drug test. If you're keeping score at home, that is 3 failed drug tests, 1 for cocaine, 1 for a banned substance he said he got in a pill that boosts sexual performance. And now this, turinabol, an anabolic steroid. Now, I sat down with Jones a little over 2 weeks ago, and here's what he had to say. Do you feel like maybe deep down, maybe it's a little closer to the surface? Is there a self-destruct mode that's there? Is that a fair question to ask? Is there something there?
Not in me anymore. There was a moment in my career, like when I was younger. I almost did accept doing self-destructing things, but somewhere in my head I was doing it to challenge myself, to see what type of things I could fight through, what type of adversity I could fight through. I almost felt like I had to have cards stacked against me in order to really perform at a high level. So I would drink before fights, and I would just do stupid stuff before fights to see how much I really got. But now I've really gotten to a space in my life where I dare to be great, and I dare to put my true best self out. Because there's something that's going to be really defeating when you do all the right things and you come up short. And so I used partying and things as a crutch. Now I'm daring to put my true best out there and to accept defeat or victory. And thus far, putting my true self out there has given me nothing but victory.
What a difference a couple weeks makes. Jones' camp says they are having the samples tested again. Daniel Cormier responded by saying, "I'm disappointed to hear the news. It's very emotional. In my mind, on July 29th, I competed and I lost. I thought Jon Jones was the better man that day. I don't know what to think anymore." Meanwhile, Dana White weighed in on the failed drug test as well.
I mean, if this ends up and he gets, and it ends up, getting 2 or 3, it might be the end of his career. So to talk about his legacy, I mean, that's probably the end of his career. I mean, how old is Jon now? 30? 30. Yeah, 33, 34, trying to make a comeback again. And you look at what could have been and what he could have done, and it's sad.
It's hard for Dana White to be almost speechless, as he seemed to be, struggling for words at that press conference. But Robin, let's talk about this light heavyweight division, which has really been a bright spot, one of them for the UFC throughout the years. Who do you think should have the title right now if Jon Jones is stripped?
It has to be Cormier, right? I mean, if he walked in with the belt and he lost it to Jon Jones, and then Jones is stripped of the belt, why would the belt then go into the ether instead of back on the man who was the owner of the non-cheating version of the belt there? So I think that has to be the logical move, even if seeing him beaten the way he does is jarring and doesn't exactly resonate with champion.
Well, I mean, Daniel Cormier said it himself. Jon Jones was the better fighter that day. Granted, it was tainted. In some ways, even though these are two men going head-to-head, it almost reminds me a little of USC, University of Southern California, when they had their national championship vacated because it turned out later that Reggie Bush was taking improper benefits. They didn't then give the national championship to the opponent. It just gets vacated. And I could see the UFC doing that here. Maybe they just vacate the title totally and give Daniel Cormier the first shot with the title back, because it was taken from him that day. Just like we saw USC win the title that year, you can't erase your memory from that day, even though after the fact there turned out to be an impropriety.
It just logically doesn't make sense to me. If the title is taken by a guy who is then stripped of it, I think it should go back to the guy who had it. It also makes us look at that post-fight interview with even more scrutiny, because people were questioning Cormier and whether he should have been interviewed being concussed. I mean, this put his actual physical health in danger more than any typical fight. And it also is a big blow to the UFC, because with Conor McGregor doing who knows what beyond the Mayweather-McGregor fight, Jon Jones was the biggest star.
Sure.
And the biggest fight they could make was Jon Jones and Brock Lesnar, which now seems to be no more.
And Jon Jones said in that interview when he sat with me after he won the light heavyweight title back, he said, I am only looking now to get that big money fight. It's just not enough to just be the champion of the division of your weight class. You have to go outside the sport almost. And I know Lesnar obviously is now a WWE star, but was the UFC. You have to go outside the sport if you really want to make waves and if you want to get that generational wealth that we are talking about for your fight career. This is just awful for not just the UFC. They have plenty of money. I'm not crying for them. They're going to be fine. But for Jon Jones, I mean, this is an act by a desperate man. And, he thought that he could win people back, and he was winning people back by beating Daniel Cormier. He was setting himself up for just the golden parachute of life and just could not keep it together. He's a complete fraud. And this is a really tough thing for me to say, because I've known Jon Jones for a really long time personally. He's from my same hometown. We don't have a lot of famous people in upstate New York. And Jon Jones was a really bright light for us. And he's an absolute disgrace because of what you said, which is when you're talking about combat sports, hand to hand, fist to fist, elbow to face, you're messing around with the rest of their life if you are taking a steroid. It is the most selfish act you can do. It is a coward's way out. And it's horrible to say, because no one wanted to root for Jon Jones more than me. And today, I think, is a sad day. I don't see athletes as role models, but I wanted to believe in Jon Jones.
This isn't a home run record. This is someone's physical well-being. Now, we mentioned Conor McGregor. Apparently, he arrived in Las Vegas ready to fight, even if he doesn't fight Mayweather until Saturday, as McGregor got into a confrontation with both Paulie Malignaggi and a fan. Does this just continue the notion that the build-up to this fight will be better than the actual fight?
We've been saying that for weeks now. Yes, the best part of the fight is happening now. It's get it in now. Pay attention now. Get excited now. This is the best part that's going to happen. Even though, Robin, for the last couple days, we've had people try to convince us that this is going to be a much more entertaining and closer fight than we have both thought, considering Mayweather is one of the best pound-for-pound boxers ever. Conor, never been a boxer, even though he is a fighter. I will not be convinced. The promotion has been stellar leading up to this fight. They're adding to it today, giving it an extra bump. But none of this is going to convince me that Conor has a chance.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit as the week goes on and we get closer to the fight. But I do find myself wondering, am I crazy? Like, how are these people who know what they're talking about giving Conor McGregor a chance? Because my initial instinct and every part of my brain tells me Floyd Mayweather wins going away. And I would have set the over-under on clean punches McGregor lands at about 1.5.
Well, as for the fight on Saturday earlier this week, we caught up with boxing broadcaster Brian Kenny, and he gave us his thoughts. highly anticipated matchup between Mayweather and McGregor is this Saturday night in Las Vegas. Award-winning broadcaster Brian Kenny will have the blow-by-blow for the preliminary fights on Fox. Those fights start Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Brian Kenny, good enough to join us now. Brian, we're going to tap into your expertise here as a boxing historian and expert. Is there a strategy that Conor McGregor can execute that can make Floyd uncomfortable?
McGregor has got to be McGregor. He's got to be his own guy, as unorthodox as possible, and changing the rhythm on Floyd and not expending too much energy. Fortunately for him, that is what he does. He fights that way.
Is that me hearing you giving Conor McGregor a chance in this fight?
You know, Robin, it's like this. I started off thinking, there's no way. It doesn't happen. Come on, what are you thinking? It's a different sport, and he's playing the other guy's sport. And Floyd is the defensive master, and he's done it for years, and he's done it from the crib. And yet, look, you start to think of ways that this could be interesting. You start to think of ways that it could happen. And yeah, over the last week or so, I've started watching McGregor fights, started analyzing them more, going over them again and again. You start listening to the guy. He has total belief in himself. This guy's got real power in his left hand, and he fights slightly unorthodox, in addition to fighting a 40-year-old guy who hasn't been in the ring in 2 years.
You talked about it from a boxing perspective. What would be the fallout for boxing if Conor McGregor won?
I don't know. I think the fallout would be not that this guy beat boxing as a sport, but that this guy rose to the top of boxing, and that Conor McGregor is now one of the top boxers in the world. And he did. If he does win, obviously, he will have shocked the world and done something that nobody else in boxing could do for the previous 20 years.
I mean, is there something we can compare this to in history?
Oh, sure. I mean, the most obvious is Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki, and they were fighting in kind of a mixed sort of styles. Inoki, of course, made it into a farce by laying on his back and kicking at Ali for the whole fight. But I think that was the start of it. So what should happen in this fight? What should happen is Conor McGregor is exposed as a good boxer, but not a world-class championship-level boxer, even though he's a world-class championship-level fighter. But this is a different sport. A lot of MMA in the recent years has really gone toward the guy who has a good striking game, a guy who can box. It was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that was dominant, and then it was collegiate wrestlers who started to dominate. Now we're seeing a lot of fighters really like to stay on their feet, box, do just enough of the other styles to stay on their feet. But now it's getting to the point where people realize a good, effective, striking game is the thing that knocks people out and makes you money.
Two of the biggest upsets in both sports, Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson, Holly Holm over Ronda Rousey. If McGregor beats Mayweather, does that trump both of those?
Wow, I think so. It would be so stunning. If Conor McGregor beats Floyd Mayweather and he's the welterweight champion of the world, yeah. I can't think of anything as stunning. Maybe Roy Jones getting knocked out one shot by Antonio Tarver, or George Foreman knocking out Michael Moore for the heavyweight championship when he was, 45 years old. That, I think, would be up with those two incredible upsets.
Yeah, because to me, Brian, it's every other Mayweather fight sort of on steroids, because he's fought these guys who are action fighters before, Alvarez coming forward, Pacquiao coming forward, and that style tends to not work when you start getting counterpunched in the face.
Right. And I know the most likely scenario is I can already see myself, Robin, after the fight, talking to the opponent and hearing, well, I just couldn't get the jab off. I couldn't get my offense going. He's kind of hard to hit. Hey, he was running. He didn't want to fight me. It's always the same thing. And it's like, yeah, and you lost. Floyd will stink it out to get a W. The one way to beat him is to not waste energy. Don't get exhausted. Don't go into deep water and get drowned. Wait for that one opportunity, that one counter that we saw when I know I'm like throwing these things out there, but Shane Mosley caught him once and couldn't finish him. Yes, if McGregor catches him once like that, we could have a very different fight. That's if. I wouldn't put my money that way, but that's if.
I just wonder psychologically if you're coming from the octagon, which is all about action, 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 choking out the opponent as quickly as possible, will Conor be able to have that sort of patience in the ring, that sort of discipline, or if he's just going to walk right into one?
Oh, yeah, no, I think Conor fights methodically. He boxes. He's on his feet. He boxes. He takes his time. His problems are not that. I don't think he goes in because he doesn't like to get on the ground. He doesn't fight maniacally. He waits. He kind of puts out that right hand and he pauses and he waits to try to drop this down on you. But he'll wait. He'll take his time. That's very much in his favor. The issue is what happens in round 2, 3, 4. Can you do that consistently? Because Floyd can go all day long. I've said to him after fights, you could have fought in 1910 where they fight 100 rounds. Floyd could toe the line 100 times. Can Conor McGregor do that? I mean, the answer is no. He can't do that at the level of Floyd Mayweather. So as it gets deeper and deeper, he's got to conserve his energy because Floyd will stay the same. So Conor McGregor, if he doesn't knock him out, is going to have to stay that course and stay with a guy who has done this since the crib.
It's a great point, and we know a lot of boxing judges and panels we've seen lately, they are awarding the fighter who is making the action happen. They are awarding a lot of points to the fighter who's making it happen. It's funny for me to think about Floyd, kind of 1910, Jack Dempsey style. It's a good image for us.
That's
Brian
his game. That's his thing. He'd be perfect.
Again, Brian will have all the blow-by-blow for Mayweather-McGregor prelims live on Fox Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Of course, the pre-fight show starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. Post-fight commentary on Fox Sports 1. Brian, Kenny, appreciate your expertise and your thoughts, and enjoy the fight on Saturday.
Thank you. You too. Toe the line. There we go. Put him up. All right. Thank you.
Why do I hate Roman Reigns? Because he's shoved down our throats, the way John Cena was shoved down our throats in the beginning.
He thinks he's really the #1 top guy, but he pretty much doesn't act like it.
He's just been nothing but boring. He has no moves.
Real fans, our age, just don't like that dude. I'm sorry.
Boo, Roman Reigns. Roman sucks. Roman sucks. Roman sucks.
He's just not my cup of tea.
Why do I hate Roman Reigns?
I don't hate Roman Reigns. I just dislike him strongly.
This whole whatever he's doing now, it's just not good. Everyone. That's why Braun's so over. Like everyone's just all about Braun, and everyone's over Roman Reigns.
I don't know. I'm just not a really big fan of him on the mic.
They keep pushing him to the damn roof.
If nobody wants him there, why keep him there?
I hate Roman Reigns because he take the Undertaker to the retirement, and I hate him. I boo him.
This is my yard now.
You just saw WWE fans talking about why they hate Roman Reigns. Well, guess who else saw it? Roman Reigns, who tweeted, quote, "The simple question here is to the kids. Would you rather grow up to be like me or the guys from this video?" Maggie, I think he should bring a little bit more of that persona to his in-ring attitude.
Of course, he's a born troll and a heel. He's a born heel. I think he should just make the full turn. I don't know why they didn't do it at SummerSlam. It was the perfect opportunity, or maybe even Raw the next night on Monday. Turn him heel. The crowd will love it. Reigns, I think, is suited for it. It just makes too much sense.
I also think you just came up with a pretty solid wrestling gimmick in the troll. He can harass his opponents online and then just say things to get a rise out of the audience.
No, that doesn't give us enough distraction from real life. That's a little too on the nose for what's happening in our world right now. But personally, I know Roman Reigns. He was, shoved down the throat of everybody. And in the WWE universe, you get the instant feedback. I like him. He's got the face.
Well, that's all that should matter to him, right?
Thanks so much for watching SI Now. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, with more probably from the Kyrie trade, which is just buzzing. We loved all your comments on Facebook Live, so thank you and keep them coming. Stick with SI.com for all the latest news and headlines, and follow us on Twitter. We'll be posting clips from the show right after this.
No trolling.